They seem to have missed the deadline for doing so.
And finally, authorities in South Africa are in discussions with their Indian counterparts regarding two of the Gupta brothers being allowed to embark on a pilgrimage to that country. This was stated by the Justice Minister Ronald Lamola during an interview earlier this week. The brothers Atul and Rajesh Gupta are wanted on criminal charges in South Africa, and they're also on an Interpol list of wanted people. However, they were granted permission by an Indian court to undergo a pilgrimage without the fear of being arrested. The Justice Minister of South Africa, Ronald Lamola, has this to say on the extradition of the Guptas.
The red notice is still active. Wherever they land, they must be arrested. And we are aware that there is a ruling in India that said that they could visit there without any of repercussions. We are in engagements with the authorities in India with regards to that, because we think that rule is not in line with international law governing extradition. Anyone who is on a red notice, wherever that they land, which is a member state of Interpol, they've got a duty to arrest that person.
Financial indicators ran to the dollar 18 rands 48, the euro 20 rands 2 cents, and the British pound 23 rands 74 cents. Your weather 23 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. 2 more cases of monkeypox have been detected in the country. The latest case is a 39-year-old male who was admitted to Eddington Hospital in Durban, and also another case to St. Augustine Hospital. That's
Presenters of Radio Al Ansar are not necessarily the views and opinions of Radio Al Ansar and the Al Ansar Foundation.
Radio Al Ansar.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al Ansar, keeping you informed.
खुदा ने मुझको दिया माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से मिला है जो भी मिला, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से। जहाँ जहाँ भी गया लोग दिल बिछाने लगे, जहाँ जहाँ भी गया लोग दिल बिछाने लगे। ये है तेरा मेरा माँ तेरी दुआओं से, तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ तेरी दुआओं से, माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा, माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा, माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा, माँ की दुआ जन्नत की हवा। ये कामयाबियाँ शोहरत कदम कदम पे मिली, ये कामयाबियाँ शोहरत कदम कदम पे نصیب ایسا ملا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے طواف میں نے کیا کی سعی مروا بھی طواف میں نے کیا کی سعی مروا بھی جو میں نے عمرہ کیا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے مجھے گرانے پہ حاسد تلے ہوئے تھے مگر مجھے گرانے پہ حاسد تلے ہوئے تھے مگر میں دشمنوں سے بچا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے قسم ہے اس میں اجاگر کا کچھ جمال نہیں قسم ہے اس میں اجاگر کا کچھ جمال نہیں عروج اس کو ملا ماں تیری دعاؤں سے تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے ماں تیری دعاؤں سے ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا ماں کی دعا جنت کی ہوا ماں کی دعا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another edition of News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba bikum. My name is Yunus Sacoor, and I will be in your company for the next 2 hours from approximately 8:15 to 10 p.m. I will be interviewing our guests shortly. Today, the date is the 12th of June 2024, equivalent to the 1st of Zulhajj 1445 AH. Alhamdulillah, today's show we have many guests, and our topic is to deal with the update of the Government of National Unity and Coalitions. The show is interactive, and we welcome your comments, which can be sent to us on the studio WhatsApp number 06090411056, or call us live in the studio only in the case of urgency. We have a lot of breaking news as we speak, but before that, I'd like to mention that these 10 days of Zulhajj are such Mubarak days that they have a higher weighting than the last 10 days of the Mubarak month of Ramadan. Our pilgrims or Hajis are in currently, many of them are in Azizia, some of them are in Makkah al-Mukarramah, ready to leave for Mina on Friday, inshallah. On Saturday, it'll be Wukuf al-Arafat, which is the big day, one of the biggest days in the Islamic calendar. And we know the Eid al-Adha will be on Saturday, when the pilgrims will be pelting shaitan. There will be millions of pilgrims this weekend, into the plains of Arafat, making du'as. So these are Mubarak days, and we should take advantage by making a lot of ibadat, zikrullah, istighfar, extra salah, tilawat al-Quran, because they are very, very auspicious days, and du'as are accepted during this period. And ulama ikram encourage us to fast in whichever days we can, particularly a day before Eid al-Adha, and also the day of Arafat. So as far as possible, if we can manage, we should keep this Nawafil fast. They're very, very rewarding, but at the same time, increase our ibadat in whichever way and form we can. Having said that, the weather is biting cold in and around South Africa, including Durban. So we should try to keep warm and stay away from the flus, the virus that's hitting us. There's a lot of viruses around, and we have to take extra precautions. So alhamdulillah, we had our elections a few weeks ago, and we know there's been a lot of horse trading going on, amongst the political parties in the last week or two, and various discussions are taking place around the government of national unity, around coalitions, and obviously there's a lot of horse trading going on in certain provinces, particularly KZN, and indeed Gauteng, and indeed national. So alhamdulillah, the National Executive Committee of the ANC met last Thursday, and they took a decision that because they got the percentage of 40% in the national ballot, they had to go into some kind of government of national unity or coalitions in order to have the country being governed appropriately. So there were concerns about the DA-ANC coalition, but the various options were put to the other parties to join in the government of national unity. And today there have been some breaking news we'll discuss a little bit later. Also, news has come through that the current eThekwini mayor, Kolisi Kaunda, he's been recalled, and I believe his last day in office will be Friday, and he will be joining the national government. So there will be replacements in eThekwini, and I'm sure the other structures, after we chat about the government of national unity, there will be wholesale changes in the eThekwini municipality as well. There are also implications for the newly formed MK in this whole process. The implications thereof we will chat. Now, with me in the studio, I have three guests. Brother Ahmed Marchi, he's the business banker at the Albaraka Bank. They deal with a lot of business sector and NPOs. So we'll be interviewing him shortly on how digital banking can be introduced in the informal business sector, and what benefits there are for that type of banking. Because Albaraka Bank, like other banks, are looking at ways and means of digitalizing, banking, and making it easy for individuals that are not business executives, nor are they working in the business sector, but are self-employed, and how to make banking easy for them, because we're going into a cashless environment, and they're trying to introduce this in the informal sector. Thereafter, we will interview Professor Andre Duvenage, who's a world-renowned political analyst. He's a professor from Northwest University. He will be commenting on the government of national unity, the implications thereof, and how he sees the scenario panning out going forward. And we have Mr. Naren Singh. He's a political analyst, party head of an organization called NIXA, and he's a political commentator. So we have quite a informative set of guests this evening. And inshallah, I'm sure we will have a vibrant program this evening. So I'd like to introduce my first guest in the show this evening is Brother Ahmed Marchi from the Albaraka Bank. Brother Ahmed, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakallah for having me here to expound and explore this interesting topic of digitalization, empowering the informal sector, and literally empowering many individuals, not just informal traders.
Okay. Shukran. For the benefit of our listeners, we know that Albaraka Bank is one of the few Islamic banks in South Africa, linked up with banks abroad, and they've developed themselves as a very prominent bank in South Africa. And the Al Ansar Foundation is proud to be working in collaboration with the Albaraka Bank. And we met with the Chief Executive Officer, Brother Shabir Chauhan, many a time. And we've reached an agreement with him that the Al Ansar Foundation will work closely with the Albaraka Bank to empower our people to create employment opportunities, to ensure that, the economy of this country, improves. And an important point that, Brother Shabir Chauhan mentioned to me, and I agreed with him, is that we need to work closely with the business and government sector to ensure that as an NGO and as bankers, we provide an oversight role, particularly of the municipalities in our area, because we know that the eThekwini municipality has failed in service delivery, and with these fundamental changes that are coming up in the political system, that before 2026, we can provide an oversight and support to ensure that they provide service delivery in an appropriate and efficient manner. Now, Ahmad, I noticed, through the LinkedIn and various other social media platforms, that your bank is looking at basically providing digital banking to the informal sector. And I know one of the pilot exercises you all have done is to look at these car guards that have been operating in various shopping centers, various parking lots in businesses, and also many of them in and around the beachfront. So whoever goes there on a Sunday, whether you go to Blue Lagoon or you go to Amshlanga Beach or you go to North Beach, you'll notice there's many car guards that are guiding cars out of the parking lots. And as they're guiding cars out of the parking lots, we find the motorist gives them a tip of 5 Rand, 10 Rand cash. And over time, they may collect 100, 200, 300 Rand for the day. And if you look at it, 7 days, it's 2,100 Rand. That's minimum. Sometimes they get more. And it could be, 8,000, 9,000 a month. So if these individuals are able to save this money, they can sort of use that for their needs, and at the same time develop other skills whereby they become empowered and improve themselves rather than just being a car guard all their lives. So you all have undertaken a pilot exercise where your CEO and a few of you all thought about this initiative, like, for example, the small businesses in the private sector or informal businesses. You want to roll this out. Perhaps you want to just explain us what prompted you all to really look at car guards, because, if you look at a car guard, it might be insignificant. Or maybe you go to Macro and you find a few car guards there and you take out a 5 Rand or 10 Rand or what and give it to the individual. Just as because he helped you to put the goods into your boot, etc. So what prompted you all to use the car guards as a pilot exercise to undertake this digital banking?
So, it's quite a power-packed comment and question, but let's unpack this. It might seem like it's what I could use the word, it's a trivial case study. However, it's a very reflective of the society that we are in at the moment, right? And at Albaraka Bank, one of our values is partnerships, innovation, digitalization, and then development. So these are, part of our values at the bank. And it comes to us naturally to implement these values. And now when we looked at the situation, when our CEO went to the beachfront and he said, you know what, here's an individual, I want to tip him, but I can't do it because, why? I am cashless. And the trend throughout the world is to be cashless. So what can we do to facilitate him receiving those tips? And what he did was, he actually he got hold of me in my position and said, have a look at it and see what you can come up with as a solution to empower him so that he could still get his tips. Being this being my line of work, we looked at it and we said, okay, wait, hold on. There's point of sale devices and then there's a Zapper option. Let's see what we can do. And then we decided, okay, we're going to go with the Zapper option because that is a bit more cost effective than the point of sale device. And coming back to the point, that's just the drop in the ocean in terms of a comment, right? But as I say, we have to look at this thing more holistically and from the bigger picture, right? So, while we were waiting, I was just doing some Googling, right? So South Africa got like about 3.3 million informal traders. Well, that's a big chunk of people, right? they're saying it's contributing to about like 5% of the GDP of South Africa. That's the informal sector. Now, somebody has to take charge to empower these people and get them financially included into the system. We can't leave them out. And if we know that the world is moving towards digitalization and a cashless society, I mean, if you go to China, all the informal traders operate through this app that they call Weibo, right? And you just tap your phone and you move. Tap your phone and move. I mean, informal traders in China, literally, there is no cash that they operate with. Now, we need to develop to that point. And what happens is, as you're saying, and as when we mentioned, we need to get them financially included. And the point is not only for that one transaction of that sale. What at the bank, what we want to do, we want to take it one step further in that we want to open up investments and savings accounts, make them financially savvy, and make them understand that, listen, if you've got a kid that probably needs to go to university later on in life, you can start saving for the education as they develop and as your life progresses. So it's not just a one-stop pit stop with just the Zapper code for now. There's a much bigger long-term vision. And, as you say, your introductory comments were about the government and coalition, right? So it's ironical that you say this, because right now, if there's ever a time for South Africans to collaborate in a coalition, it is now. We all need to, put our differences aside, whatever it may be, and come to the table to find solutions, firstly, to keep people employed and earning a living, right? And this is going to do that. And more than that, what it do is, it always troubled me and Shabir as well, and, people at the bank, right? In that, while we give charity, we do not concern ourselves about the self-respect and dignity that we need to restore to the individual. Even if you look at the government SASA grants, right? It doesn't restore that dignity and self-respect to the individual. We need to passionately get on board, create jobs, restore self-respect and dignity to the person, give them hope for the future. That's what I'm saying.
No, excellent. I know when we met with Shabir as an organization and Albaraka, and we were discussing the different initiatives. One of the initiatives was to say, how do we respond to the high rate of unemployment, which averages about 32% of those that are employable are without jobs. Now, government cannot provide this by itself. And, the private sector has been, approached to do this. And I'm sure with the government of national unity, they're going to try to respond, because better to get people employed than getting them into, the payroll through unemployment insurance fund, or maybe through pension or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
So I think it is imperative that we look at the various sectors. And you're quite right. 5% of the GDP constitutes those in the informal sector. And I know when we have these events that take place as Al Ansar Foundation, the annual Souk, we have approximately 320 stallholders that trade, of which 75% of them are informal. In other words, they involve with home industry, or they involve in buying and selling. And over the 11-day period, there's a phenomenal turnover, because we have something like about 80,000 people coming to the Souk, which is a trade fair. And these 80,000 people, they come and they've got everything that they require, from food to takeaways to entertainment to whatever at that sector. And a lot of them are, receiving, cash for the goods. And a lot of them have, vending machines, etc. they use. But, they got to look at a cash-free type business sector and also, digital banking. So the point I'm making is that if you also consider the other informal sectors in the markets, where you see people selling fruit and vegetables, in various corners you find, people trading, in front of shops, etc. So the informal sector is becoming a huge trading, setup in South Africa. Now, I'm sure you all would have encountered some challenges when you were trying to work on this pilot exercise. And basically, can you just sort of indicate generally what were the challenges and how you all overcame the challenges?
It's interesting you asked that question, right? we take so much for granted in what we have. Simple things like electricity or Wi-Fi connectivity, data connectivity. And suddenly when you try to engage the individual that we were asked, to onboard, firstly, to get hold of him on the phone, like for about a week. After a week, I got hold of him. Right. So now I went there and actually didn't get hold of him on the phone. I went physically to his place where he operates, got hold of him, said, okay, right. We got all the documentation, right? And now there's certain documentation we have in our nice, neat file at home that we say that we know we got it and we can operate. But persons that are operating in the informal sector, as the word suggests, informal, their lives are informal, is not as structured as ours. We may be not being prejudiced, but these are the realities. So we had to arrange for the documentation. We got all the documentation. And the challenge actually stopped there, literally, because the guy was so eager to get the process done that now suddenly his phone was charged and he was on my case. When is it going to get sorted out and when it's going to get sorted out, right? And then what we done is we managed to speak to the people at Zappa. Within 24 hours, we got the QR code, had it laminated, passed it on to him. And then the next day, I went past there and asked him, hey, what's the story? How's it going? Is it working for you? Hey, very loudly and proudly, he told me, with a glee on his face, I got 40 Rand already through it. There's a kind of satisfaction that gives you that no other kind of satisfaction will give you. So, alhamdulillah, it's taken off. We've experienced the challenges, but as I said, it's small logistical challenges, nothing major that cannot be overcome, and nothing that's like a wall that we just can't get over it. So, coming back to the first question you asked me, there's the opportunities and there's just so much you can do in South Africa to create empowerment, to create employment, and we need to take charge.
Listen, very often when people go to shopping centers or they go to malls or they go to the beachfront, they may not have change in the car. And then they say, hey, I don't have change next time. But here's an opportunity. If you have your card, you can actually give him a tip of 5 Rand or 10 Rand or what, although it might be a small amount, but it adds up because now it doesn't say, sort of allow you to say you don't have it. And some people have the good intention of giving it. So alhamdulillah, these type of initiatives do help the informal sector. And the individual that has that digital, banking, he or she becomes more responsible. Finally, any other future plans you'll have regarding, the informal sector, including, because in the car guard industry, it's a huge industry countrywide.
Yeah.
So even if you had to tap, a variety of different car guards to introduce this concept and do a write-up for the benefit of those that are involved in digital banking, what plans you'll have to really explore and enhance this further?
In a way, we have to look. I just want to share one anecdote with you because talking about car guards, right? The first car guard was at the Milky Lane on the beachfront. There was a white guy who was looking after the keys and guarding the cars of the surfers. It started in the 90s, and it gained traction from there.
Because the surfers didn't know where to keep their clothes.
Keep the keys when they were going going in for a swim.
Yes.
Right. So just thought I'd share that. But coming back to the question about what we want to do in the future, there's so much that we could do. At the moment, this is still in its beta testing phase, right? We don't know yet what challenges we may need to overcome or that will present themselves to us. So we're just hoping to see what comes off the next 2 to 3 weeks, because we just launched this about a week or two ago, right? We want to see how that develops, what feedback we get, etc., and then we will take it from there. But as we mentioned, one of the most important thing we want to do is we want those informal traders to be financially included in the South African banking system, because that opens up a whole window of opportunities for them in lots of different ways. A classic case is because he got an account with us now, he's got a document for proof of address to be financially included with other institutions and do other things, because before this he didn't have a proof of address. It's a simple things, operational it might be, but it opens up the world of opportunity for them to be financially included. Yes, there are a lot of other informal sectors that we should be looking at. The guys that's selling fruit on the streets and things like that, right? Inshallah, we'll get there. But for now, we just want to focus on this, get this behind us, and then explore those opportunities. But there are a lot of opportunities. Yes.
Okay, that was Brother Ahmed Marchi from the Albaraka Bank that brought to our attention, the introduction of digital banking in the informal sector. It may appear to be a small pilot exercise, but it can grow enormously for the benefit of the banking sector, and at the same time empower our informal businesses to understand that they don't have to be businessmen to really have a bank account. There's various ways of doing it, and there's opportunities available. I thank you for joining us. Ahmad, you can stay in the studio because we may want to pick up with a few other issues as you go along. But shukran for joining us, and we thank your CEO for being part of the sort of process of ensuring that our public be aware of the banking sector and how we can empower our unemployed people and at the same time improve the informal sector. Shukran for joining us.
Okay.
On that note, we'll take a short break, and inshallah after the break we will be joined by our political analyst Professor Andre Duvanaga.
मेरे नबी प्यारे नबी सुन्नत तेरी दुनिया दी
Sunnah a day, accept gifts which somebody presents to you even if they are not to your liking.
Sunnah a day, proudly brought to you by Sunpick, 100% pure sunflower cooking oil. Sunpick, cook more with less.
Imagine this. You're putting together a 7-color meal, from the creamy pasta to the glazed carrots and flavorful onion gravy. This entire meal is made with our 100% pure extra virgin olive oil from our La Familia range, bringing outstanding quality and taste to your kitchen. Shop La Familia 100% pure extra virgin olive oil at any leading supermarkets near you. La Familia, heart of the home.
Discover our new range of exotic perfumes, ouds and bukhur, straight from Dubai, now available at Wonder Dates. We stock a wide selection of Nabil and Chris Adams fragrances, perfect for your unique lifestyle. But that's not all. We also cater to your Islamic lifestyle needs with prayer mats, tasbeehs, dua stickers, bukhur burners and mizwaks. Looking for herbal capsules and essential oils? Look no further. Experience the beauty of Wonder Dates. Shop now and elevate your senses.
Experience the perfect partnership this Eid with Al-Ansar and Continental Livestock. Conveniently located at 207 West Road, Overport, we offer a full-service experience from slaughtering to slicing. Choose from a wide variety of sheep, goats, and cattle shares starting from just 2,500 Rand. For something bigger, we have full cattle starting from just 16,500 Rand. Trust the synergy of Al-Ansar and Continental Livestock for quality, convenience, and compassion. Visit us today or call now to place your order.
The Al-Imdad Foundation gives you the opportunity to share your Qurbani with struggling Gazan refugees who have crossed over into Egypt. For just 3,750 Rand per share, we will slaughter, package and deliver your Qurbani to these vulnerable Gazan families. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
We'd love to meet you. Pay us a visit. Radio Al-Ansar.
Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Maritzburg 105.6 FM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Maritzburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before the break, we were chatting with Brother Ahmed Marchi from Albaraka Bank, and he was talking about responding to banking for the informal sector. He gave us a few, excellent examples on how digital banking can assist the informal sector. But with me on the line now, I have Professor Andre Duvanaga. I believe he was gone hunting last week, so we couldn't get him. He's a political analyst from Northwest University. Professor Andre, good evening and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al-Ansar International.
Good evening. Nice talking again.
Thank you for joining us, Andre, and I hope you had a good break hunting last week.
Yes, it was a bit of a cold one, but we've got gemsbok or oryx and a few springbok and so on. But yes, a very nice expedition.
Okay, very good. At least you keeping yourself busy with lots of other things other than politics every now and again, which is useful. Andre, a lot of things have been happening since the elections concluded. And as you and I spoke a couple of weeks before elections, and we were talking about a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. And the best case scenario was, you said the ANC, if they get 45%, to find 5% of smaller parties won't be a problem. But if they do end up below 42%, they're going to have challenges. So they ended off at 40% and obviously needed 10% plus support to get the majority. And obviously, as we thought, but they performed better than expected, was the MK party from KZN, or predominantly in KZN. And they surprised all odds, and they got, 45% in KZN and 15% at national. So this created, various processes and options that the different parties had. Now, last week, Thursday, when the National Executive Committee of the ANC met and they were dealing with the so-called dilemma they faced of a considerable reduction in voters for them at the ballot, at 40% in national, and they had to do something serious about it. They took the decision of taking the route of forming a government of national unity, and they invited all the political parties to come on board. And in the last week, there's been a lot of horse trading. Andre, perhaps for a few minutes, you just want to unpack how this thing, is unpacked and what panned off in the last few days. I know there's some breaking news we'll discuss today, where a decision has been taken and which parties are coming on board, because Friday there's going to be the first sitting of Parliament. So, Andre, your comments, please.
Well, to start with, when we had the conversation, you're quite right, I work with the worst case and the best case scenario from an ANC perspective. And clearly the scenario that played out was even worse than the worst case. That we are now is a completely different place from where we were 2 weeks back. Currently, our politics on a number of levels at the crossroads, and they see going it extremely different.
Andre, our line is a little bit unclear. I'm not sure because of the weather.
About 10%.
Andre?
To consolidate. Yeah, can you hear me?
We're having a very disrupted line. What we're going to do, Andre, we're just going to call you back again, because obviously it's very unclear on our side. I'm not sure if because the cold weather all around, but just give us a minute or two. We'll reconnect with you with a clearer line.
I want to just see.
I think on our side it's unclear. So let's just try another line with you. Just give us a minute or so and we'll call you back so that our listeners can listen. So there's a short breakdown with Andre Dupanaga. We're going to try to reconnect with him. But I think he was just chatting about, the percentage that has come through for the African National Congress, which was much lower than what was predicted. And however, they had to, it was like a worst case scenario where they're going to have to need maybe, one strong party to join them to get over the 50% plus one mark. And they had to either have a coalition with either one of DA, IFP, EFF, or MK. But what they've decided to do is invite all the parties so that if everybody comes on board, like 1994, we will have a government of national unity where all the parties will be involved. And when they're deciding on various positions from the president downwards, then by consensus, they can make those appointments. However, the situation hasn't quite worked out that way because some of the parties felt that they cannot work with the Democratic Alliance for various reasons because of different positions, policy positions, etc. And the ruling party was discouraged by its allies, including some of the members from the ANC, to work, with the DA. However, the NEC endorsed that the ANC should be working with all parties, including the Democratic Alliance. So there were deliberations going on in the last week, which culminated in a decision this afternoon where there's been breaking news. Now, we always discussed and agreed that KZN and Gauteng would be the provinces where there would be a lot of challenges because of the diverse voting patterns in those provinces. And as we predicted, KZN was the province where the ANC lost control, unlike in 2019. So as a result of which, what was expected in KZN was far different than what actually happened. So what we're discussing with Andre now is, as a political analyst, what's his viewpoint on the situation as it arises, because on Friday there's going to be the first sitting of Parliament where a president, a deputy president, a speaker will be appointed, and thereafter MECs, after the president is appointed, then the various MECs will be appointed and the speaker, etc. So there's going to be important appointments going forward, and unlike the past where the ANC had full control of the appointment of the MECs and the various positions, now it's going to be slightly different. And added to the problem would be Gauteng and KZN, and whether the other provinces that have been dominated by the ANC and the Democratic Alliance, whether there will be any coalitions, in those provinces as well, or unless they just leave those as is. It appears as though we got Andre Dovanaga back into line. Andre, welcome back to News in Focus. Sorry for the short disruption.
Okay, yes, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, it's much clearer now, Andre, much clearer.
Okay. Maybe we must start the conversation at another level, and that is the presentation made by Mr. Ramaphosa shortly after the finalization of the results. He made the point that they are open for negotiations about coalitions. That was the one line. But the other line was he asked for a national dialogue, a sort of a Odessa, as we have seen in the build-up towards the new dispensation around 1994. And the interesting thing is that these two processes should work on each other. On the one side, you have the bigger, more inclusive process, and the coalition politics is probably the smaller, more focused alliance taking us through this rough patches where we are in at the moment. Now, the point I like to make is that we have about 36 to 48 hours before the 7th administration is kicking off, and the processes that should take place is that the chief judge must identify the speaker, and they must basically legitimize or bring into process all the members of the national legislature, this time without the MK because they are boycotting this process, and then we must go for the election of a president. Now, I cannot see that at that point we will have strong alliances, agreements among political parties. I think we will only have very tentative agreements, and that will tell us that basically the Ramaphosa government will be a minority government. There may be behind the scenes an agreement between the ANC and the IFP, and between the ANC and maybe the DA, or something like that, and they will rule on an ad hoc basis and creating majorities and continuing the process. And as they appoint cabinet, I think we will have a clearer idea of the nature of cooperation, the nature of the coalition, the structure, etc. And then from there on, we will enter the new dispensation. And at the moment, it's all about getting the 7th Parliament going, elect the President and the Speaker.
Now tell me, Andre, there was some breaking news that came through this evening where the IFP, were supposed to be chatting with the MK for a kind of a coalition government in KZN. And it emerged that, the MK did not pitch up. And then the IFP decided to go another route where they decided that they're going to form a coalition with the ANC and Democratic Alliance. And they're going to form a government of national unity for KZN. And when you look at the number of seats, you will find that they will become the majority in KZN. Are you aware of that breaking news?
Well, yes, I did hear it, although it was not in details. I also made the calculation that if we get a scenario where the ANC, the DA, and the IFP is working together on a national level, this is highly likely the scenario for KZN. And I think this is a very important strategic consideration for the ANC to keep control both nationally and in KZN. And they are a majority, the biggest party in Gauteng, where the same alliance, or maybe not even the same alliance, can let them keep control of basically everything they had during the Sixth administration, with literally minor prices they need to pay, in politically speaking, and in this regard.
Now, the IFP says that when talks were had with the ANC, DA, and NFP in KZN, there were suggestions that they presented the IFP as premier candidate, and there was no pushback, and all parties welcomed this. So is there some deal cutting going on here to take over? Because MK was the biggest threat countrywide in KZN because they held 45% of the seats. So as you mentioned, it's a strategy, but is this strategy linked to giving in to the IFP's candidate becoming the premier so that you get them on board, because they're holding quite a large number of seats in KZN together with the DA and the ANC? Because if you compare the number of seats of 85, the three of them combined compared to the MK and EFF 37 and 2, they're about 45. So in other words, they are in the majority, so they can determine from their side who's going to be the premier and who's going to be the MECs. How do you see that panning out?
Well, my take on it, and I think we had a discussion on that about 2 weeks ago, where I made the point that one of the first priorities, if the ANC will go below 50 and maybe below 45, will be to work closer with the IFP as a political party, specifically to strengthen the ANC within the context of KZN. And I think that is what we are seeing at the moment. And I heard the rumors, and I think it's a bit of speculation, that we even may see Mr. Glabisa, the leader of the IFP, becoming a deputy president, together with Paul Mashatile and Cyril Ramaphosa. Another way to accommodate the IFP will be to give them the position of premiership of KZN. I think if I am looking at the horse trading that is going on, the IFP will be very lucky to get both positions, but I think at least one of them will definitely go their way. And I think for the ANC, it will be a huge solution. It will strengthen their position. And we can expect, however, reaction from the side of the MK party. We know that the MK party is very much an anti-system type of party, and they like to challenge the basics of the Constitution with brute force and power. And I believe if the Zondo Commission will continue, and if there is risks for their president in terms of legal action taken by the National Prosecution Authority or other related cases, then I think we can see that we may end up in a scenario of conflict, a scenario that may have similarities to what we have seen in 2021. But I think these are considerations for the current government further down the line. They must first cross the bridge of coalition politics, ensure the position of president, and get a cabinet going and get the 7th administration going properly. But I believe there's a lot more involved in the MK party and the role they are going to play, probably in some cases in alliance with the EFF.
Now, if you understand what's going on in eThekwini, we know eThekwini municipality hasn't been performing and they were close to administration. There's also breaking news that eThekwini Mayor Mkhulisi Kaunda has been redeployed to the National Council of Provinces. His last day in office will be on Friday. Is this an attempt to notify the public that, the various parties are serious about improving service delivery, because he was cited as being the mayor that failed the municipality with the kind of strategies they used? Your comment on that, Andre?
Well, I think there can be more than one consideration. Without any doubt, service delivery is a huge problem. Gumede is associated with corruption, misconduct, forms of nepotism, and so on. And then we also have the reality of coalition politics. And I think this may be a preparation in advance for probably horse trading on certain levels in terms of future coalitions, because you can accommodate your partner not necessarily on a national or provincial level, but give a person a strong position at the local level. And we know that eThekwini is providing that type of opportunities. And we are a unitary system, so I think all of these factors can play a role. And it's also a way of getting Gumede out of trouble and taking the politician away from where the direct problems
Andre,
are.
it's not Gumede, it's Kaunda. Gumede was removed and replaced by Kaunda, Mkhulisi Kaunda, and he ran the eThekwini municipality as mayor for a number of years. And during his reign, the decline started. So there's a possibility that the ANC, with its new renewal policy, indicated that they're going to remove some, heads of political heads in various sectors to introduce the renewal policy, and at the same time ensure that the appropriate people are put into positions to improve service delivery in the municipalities, because the president has been cited for actually pointing out that they did not focus too much on the municipalities, and this is why there's been a decline. So National is going to provide a lot of close support for municipalities. So this move of the eThekwini municipality being a huge metro and declining, and it's during this period of these coalitions and national unity going on, maybe it's advising on informing the public that we're serious about this renewal policy.
I think we can understand that within the context of renewal. But I did a lot of research currently about the status of local government in South Africa. And the problem is a lot more than only the senior executive positions like mayor or the head of the municipal administration or whatever. There are problems with regard to technical specialities and people that are qualified in technical areas. There are also governance problems. There are also financial challenges. There's electricity and water challenges, a lot of these. And you cannot solve these on a political level alone. But I agree that this is an important starting point. And what I also see is that this is the beginning of bringing about change. But I have seen some of similar patterns here in Northwest and in some cases in the Free State without the necessary impact in a direct way. My take on it is that there may be a bit of politics into it as well.
Most certainly. Andre, I thank you for joining us at short notice. Very, very valuable information you've shared with us. And let's wait on Friday and see how the whole situation pans out. Very interesting for the country. Also, from an economic perspective, we need to see how the markets are going to react to this. And at the end of the day, if it improves service delivery, it improves governance, it cuts down corruption and maladministration, then we're on the right path. Thank you very much, and have a good evening, Andre.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that was Professor Andre Duvenhagen from the University of Northwest. Always very informative. He shared some valuable information with us. We'll take a break for the news, and inshallah after that we'll continue with our interviews.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al Ansar News.
Yes, this are the 12th of June. The news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. 2 more cases of monkeypox have been detected in the country. The Health Minister, Joe Patla, gives details on plans to curb the spread. The latest case is a 39-year-old man who was admitted to Eddington Hospital in Durban. Another case was discovered at St. Augustine Hospital, also in Durban. The Minister of Health, Joe Patla, has this to say.
The current outbreak, we have recorded 5 laboratory confirmed cases, and regrettably, one of those have passed away. 2 of these cases were confirmed in Gauteng and 3 in KwaZulu-Natal. The death that occurred is amongst the 2 cases in Gauteng. This patient passed away late on Monday this week, Monday the 10th of June in Tembisa Hospital. All cases and all the patients are males aged between 30 and 39 years without any travel history to other countries which are experiencing outbreaks. So this then says to us that we do have local transmission.
1 person has died and 2 others have been injured after an explosion at a foods company in Malmesbury, Cape Town. 25-year-old Nkebe Zake Chisa succumbed to his burn wounds. At the present moment, the company says it is uncertain what caused the explosion, as all necessary protocols have been flouted. Officials say an investigation is underway. The South African Poultry Association has asked the government to finalize its bird flu vaccination plans. The aviation influenza outbreak has affected poultry producers and consumers for over a year. The association's Abongile Balarane says that they have been waiting for months for the Minister of Agriculture, Togo Diriza, to finalize and approve the use of vaccines for the industry. Balarane says that this will allow poultry producers to implement an effective strategy to prevent further risk. Balarane says, however, due to strict biosecurity standards and monitoring guidelines, it can be expensive routes for some. The MK party has asked the Constitutional Court to interdict Friday's National Assembly sitting. The party says IEC was premature in declaring the 2024 election result free and fair. The Chief Justice Raymond Zondo declared that the first sitting of the 7th Parliament will be on the 14th of June, while the first sitting of the National Council of Provinces will be on the 15th of June. Proceedings are set to go ahead without the presence of the MK party. Now, Lawson Naidoo of the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution weighs in on the MK's party bid to stop the first Parliament sitting.
Yeah, the point is that, Mr. Zuma and the MK party have for many months now been making claims, unfounded claims, that the Electoral Commission was biased, was acting against the MK party in particular. And none of that has proven to be true. So, this appears to be a continuation of playing the victim at the hands of the Electoral Commission, when we know that, the various electoral observers that observed the elections that took place a couple of weeks ago that those elections were conducted in a credible manner and that the outcome was a free and fair election. So, and the objections that have been lodged by the MK and many other parties have been dealt with by the Electoral Commission. And to the extent that those objections were dismissed and not to the satisfaction of the parties objecting, they had recourse to the Electoral Court. But, they seem to have missed the deadline for doing so.
And finally, authorities in South Africa are in discussions with their Indian counterparts regarding 2 of the Gupta brothers being allowed to embark on a pilgrimage to that country. This was stated by the Justice Minister Ronald Lamola during an interview earlier this week. The brothers Atul and Rajesh Gupta are wanted on criminal charges in South Africa, and they're also on an Interpol list of wanted people. However, they were granted permission by an Indian court to undergo a pilgrimage without the fear of being arrested. The Justice Minister of South Africa, Ronald Lamola, has this to say on the extradition of the Guptas.
The red notice is still active. Wherever they land, they must be arrested. And we are aware that there is a ruling in India that said that they could visit there without any of repercussions. We are in engagements with the authorities in India with regards to that, because the rule is not in line with international law governing extradition. Anyone who is on a red notice, wherever that they land, which is a member state of Interpol, they've got a duty to arrest that person.
Financial indicators ran to the dollar 18 rands 48, the euro 20 rands 2 cents, and the British pound 23 rands 74 cents. Your weather 23 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. 2 more cases of monkeypox have been detected in the country. The latest case is a 39-year-old male who was admitted to Eddington Hospital in Durban, and also another case to St. Augustine Hospital. That's
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and Freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Abdullah is a livestock farmer in Mozambique. He provides food for his family of 6, sends 2 children to school, and buys medication for his elderly mother. All this is made possible through Africa Muslims Agency's Kurbani program. AMA trains small-scale farmers to raise quality livestock that provides an income for their family, as well as food for their communities. Sponsor your Kurbani in Africa for 1,900 Rand, South Africa for 2,950 Rand, or various countries around the world. Donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
This hadith is brought to you by Continental Butcher Baker Deli. Quality, freshness, and value. Our promise to you since 1992.
If you're looking for a delicious selection of freshly made baked goods, decadent deli treats, and succulent meats, there's no need to chop around anymore. Continental Butcher Baker Deli offers an award-winning service, presenting exceptional quality at competitive prices. Superb choice-grade lamb, beef, and chicken, mouth-watering homemade processed meats and gourmet marinades, and scrumptious baked goodies. Quality, freshness, and a money-back guarantee. Continental Butcher Baker Deli in Argyle Road. Visit continentaldeli.co.za.
Call 031 208 0951.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Salma Kazi Wahab with your Hajj 1445 update. Officials from Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Commerce have inspected 24,880 shops in Mecca and Medina to ensure they comply with the country's business regulations. The shops were in the central areas of the 2 holy mosques, the Haramain train stations, commercial centers, gold and jewelry markets, and petrol stations. So far, 1,259 violations were recorded, with inspections expected to continue throughout the Hajj period. The sermon on Arafat this year will reach 1 billion people across the world. The General Presidency of the Affairs of the 2 Holy Mosques will be overseeing the broadcast. The project, named after King Salman, seeks to highlight Islam's message of religious tolerance, moderation, and peace. The Languages and Translation Agency of the General Presidency for the Affairs of the Holy Mosque is to translate the Arafat sermon into 20 languages. Nabil al-Nasri, a French Hajj pilgrim of Moroccan origin, recently arrived in Saudi Arabia after covering a distance of over 5,000 kilometers by bicycle. He began his journey in Paris on the 22nd of April and has crossed 11 countries. While sharing updates from his journey on social media, the 41-year-old said that he wanted to revive the traditional pilgrimage experience that Muslims followed in the past and also to draw attention to global warming. Saudi Arabia's Transport General Authority inaugurated the first automated monitoring vehicle to track compliance of various transportation modes in Mecca, Medina, and holy sites during this year's Hajj. With an accuracy of up to 99%, the automated wagon uses mobile surveillance cameras that determine the type and provide the data of vehicles, including buses, trucks, and taxis, to ensure safe transportation for pilgrims. The move contributes to increasing compliance with regulations and requirements and ensuring the efficiency of monitoring operations. Now let's hear more from those preparing for Hajj 1445.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a stats on the amount of patients that we have seen in the Azizia clinic that opened up on the 3rd of June 2024. Patients that were seen up till 12 o'clock today on the 11th of June 2024. In total, we saw 918 patients. There were 3 hospital referrals, and all 3 were discharged well on recovery after having received the appropriate treatment. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
And that's your update for now. We'll be back with more on Hajj 1445.
Plan your dream holiday with the specialist, World of Travel, as we pride ourselves in offering you the best in Hajj and Umrah. We also offer travel packages to the Middle East, Far East, and many more exotic destinations. Call our professional travel consultants now on 031 20 8877 or view our website www.worldoftravel.co.za. Visit us at 44 Crescent Street as memorable journeys begin with World of Travel by Irshad Malik.
Qurbani Gift of the Needy 2024 prices: 300 Rand per share, 2,100 Rand for 7 shares, under supervision of Maulana Umar Desai of PE. Use your cell number as our reference and an SMS will be sent to you on completion of your Qurbani. Standard Bank Gift of the Needy, account 272-327-646. Website www.giftoftheneedy.com. Contact us on 031-271-3102. Gift of the Needy, bringing ease to those in need.
The Outreach Slice of Life campaign. Since its inception, our Slice of Life has touched the lives of countless individuals through our distribution to schools, old age homes, orphanages, and deserving families within our community. This initiative has been instrumental in alleviating hunger. For only 9 Rand a loaf, you will be providing a family with their daily staple, bread. Donate now on www.alansar.org.za or call Outreach on 031 208 1601.
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday. Radio Al-Ansar, keeping you informed.
اللهم احفظ المسجد الأقصى من اليهود الحاقدين اللهم أعد المسجد الأقصى إلى رحاب المسلمين اللهم وطهر المسجد الأقصى من اليهود الغاصبين اللهم عليك بهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك يا قوي يا متين اللهم منزل الكتاب مجري السحاب هازم الأحزاب سريع الحساب اهزم اليهود وزلزلهم يا قوي يا عزيز
Radio Al-Ansar.
मुबारक हो तुमको ए काबे के ज़ाहिर अकीदत भरे वो मुसर्रत के लम्हे है सलाम उनसे कहना मदीने के राही मिले जब सलामे अकीदत के लम्हे मिला तुमको इसने हुजूरी हाजी जहाँ पर है हर लम्हा रब की तजल्ली मिला तुमको इसने हुजूरी हाजी जहाँ पर है हर लम्हा रब की तजल्ली मेरा दिल गमों के समंदर में डूबा मुझे भी हूँ हासिल अजीमत के लम्हे मुबारक हो तुमको काबे के ज़ाहिर अकीदत भरे सरहद के लम्हे सलाम उनसे कहना मदीने के राही मिले जब सलामे अकीदत के लम्हे बड़े काबतुल्लाह पे एकदम नजर जब हतीम और मसआओ अरफा में भी तब बड़े काबतुल्लाह पे एकदम नजर जब हतीम और मसआओ अरफा में भी तब मुझे ना भुलाना दुआओं में अपनी ये लम्हे हैं बेशक अजाबत के लम्हे मुबारक हो तुमको ए काबे के ज़ाहिर अकीदत भरे वो मुसर्रत के लम्हे मदीने के ज़ाहिर सलाम उनसे कहना सलाम उनसे कहना सलाम उनसे कहना वो पी पी के ज़मज़म का सैराब होना वो एहराम में मस्तो सरशार रहना वो पी पी के ज़मज़म का सैराब होना वो एहराम में मस्तो सरशार रहना मिले बोसरे संगे असवद जो तुमको यही है गुनाहों से बरात के लम्हे मुबारक हो तुमको ए काबे के ज़ाहिर अकीदत भरे वो मुसर्रत के लम्हे सलाम उनसे कहना मदीने के राही मिले जब सलामे अकीदत के लम्हे मताफ़े हरम की वो पुरनूर सार वो रुकने यमानी वो मीज़ाब रहमत मताफ़े हरम की वो पुरनूर सार वो रुकने यमानी वो मीज़ाब रहमत मकामे बराहीम और मुल्तज़म पर कभी तुमसे छूटे न कुर्बत के लम्हे
Listen to News in Focus on Radio Al Ansar, Durban 90.4 and Petermarisburg 105.6 FM every Wednesday from 8 p.m. with Yunus Sacoor. That's 8 p.m. every Wednesday, Radio Al Ansar, keeping you informed.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Petermarisburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming in www.alansar.org.za. Alhamdulillah, it's a very cold day, and I'm sure Petermarisburg is much colder than Durban. But however, we can keep ourselves warm because this Mubarak month of Ramadan is upon us. And one of the best places in the world, Madinatul Munawwara, the nasheed that was played was talking about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who was the greatest of all human beings to set foot on this earth. So I'm sure our Hajis are really enjoying their stay in Makkatul Mukarramah, Madinatul Munawwara, and now in Azizia, heading on Friday to Mina for the 5 days of Hajj. Before the news break, we chatted briefly with Professor Andre Duvanaga and some interesting comments coming through on the government of national unity. Now, the IFP says that when talks were had with the ANCD and NFP in presenting the IFP's premier candidate, there was no pushback. So obviously they're hopeful, and as Prof said, that either Shlamisha, the leader, becomes the deputy president, or they're looking at two deputy presidents, or maybe the premier of KZN. I would say he would prefer the premier of KZN, but we'll have a chat with Mr. Naren Ganesh about that issue. But the IFP National Council has decided at national level to form a part of the government of national unity. Provincially, we are working in forming the government with the ANC, NFP, and DA in KZN. Obviously, they said that the MK missed the boat because they refused to pitch up. But with the ANC at 159 seats, the DA at 87, IFP at 17, the total is 263 out of 400. It's a large number. And with Patriotic Alliance hoping to join, they probably will get the two-thirds majority, which enables them to actually do various things. Now, it's official. South Africa has a GNU, Government of National Unity, to lead the country for the next 5 years. It looks like it's a take or leave at this point, and undecided parties seemingly will catch up with the GNU on the way. So obviously, these parties have already agreed. It's now up to the NFP to determine what happens in KwaZulu-Natal now that the IFP is part of the GNU, but I believe they've recently joined in as well. Now, the ANC will hold an NEC meeting tomorrow at 16 hours in Cape Town to finalize the party's posture and alliances in the Government of National Unity ahead of electing the President, Speaker, and Deputy Speaker in Parliament on Friday. So it'll be interesting happenings on Friday. And at this point, I am joined by a seasoned politician, and he's also got a lot of experience in eThekwini, being involved closely with councillors in the area. He's party head for NIXA and political commentator as well, Mr. Naren Ganesh. Naren, good evening and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Good evening to the listeners.
So, Naren, you were listening to Professor Andre Duvanaga unpacking, his viewpoint on the Government of National Unity. Today, the breaking news is it's a done deal. Those parties that I mentioned are forming the Government of National Unity. And if you get Patriotic Alliance joining in and a few other smaller parties, they're going to have probably close to 300 seats, which is probably just more than 2/3. How do you see the government panning out come Friday?
Okay, I just want to start off by casting our minds back to 1994. As a result of CODESA 2, we had what we then called the Government of National Unity. And interestingly, the sunset clause, which actually gave rise to the Government of National Unity, was actually initiated by a communist, Mr. Joe Slovo. If it were not for him, we would have had trouble then. But there's a difference between that Government of National Unity and the Government of National Unity we are talking now. Now we are having a GNU with a minority government. Then we had a GNU with the majority government because the ANC was majority. Thank God not.
And they could have run it alone.
Yeah.
For unity purposes, in terms of the CODESA agreement, they went for GNU.
Yes.
And they shared the portfolios.
Yeah, and that was important.
And this is now a forced portfolio or forced GNU.
Yeah, this is, as they say, a forced error in our politics because, Jacob Zuma once declared that the ANC will rule till Jesus comes. I don't think he was very prophetic about it because the writing was on the wall that the ANC was going to go below 50. And
he skipped ship at the time when they were going below 50.
Yes. Well, skip ship, removed, whatever the case might be. But we must understand something. The ANC is in three parts at the moment. It's the ANC, it's the EFF, and MK. It's not like the MK started off as a new party.
Correct.
Because for all intents and purposes, had it not been formed, those voters most probably would have voted ANC. Just like Julius Malema, who once declared that he has ANC running in his veins. I think he had a complete transfusion to the red.
Yes.
And,
rightfully to the color of his blood.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is these splinter groups are not new parties. They are a differential of the ANC. But now the problem comes in where the done deal you just mentioned with the IFP, ANC, and DA, probably the Patriotic Alliance. For the sake of the country, for the stability of the country, that might be the case. And I want to disagree with Professor Duvanaga on one issue. He mentioned that the IFP might get a second deputy president post. Now, that's not really possible immediately because that will need a constitutional change. You can't just appoint say we will have a second deputy president and have it, because our constitution doesn't make provision for it. And then you must remember something. Under section 52 of our constitution, we need 134 people to be present in parliament to elect a president or a speaker of the house. It's 1/3. But for legislation purposes, you need 200, which is because our parliament National Assembly consists of 400 seats. So in that respect, it might be a little different. So I don't see a problem happening in electing the president and the speaker. Who will be elected will be the question. And my concern about this coalition, look, coalitions per se are generally one of the most fragile forms of governance because they are not cast in stone. Any disagreement might let one of the partners say, right, I'm out. And then what happens? Then we go into turmoil again. But in the interest of the economy, in the interest of stability, I think it's critical that this initial, because look, I did write before the elections that the coalitions will bring out the most strangest of bedfellows. And here we are. Who would have thought the DA and the ANC will be in political bed together? But the problem with that is ideologically, they are opposed on many issues. And that may lead to problems subsequent to that. I'm also interested in the horse trading that went in for very critical cabinet posts. And,
now we want to unpack that shortly. But before we unpack that shortly, I want to take you back on the comment you made, a very interesting one, about the legality of these coalitions or a government of national unity. How, binding can they be for the next 5 years? Because if there's a deal struck, as they're saying, for 5 years, this is the government, MK is excluded, EFF, and we know they trouble stirrers and they cause all kinds of a ruckus, and EFF will now have the company of MK and they could create havoc. But to answer or to deal with the concern you raised about them changing their mind if they disagree on something and then you have a problem. Now, the Constitution doesn't take care of this, am I right? They allow this, but they don't, the legality of it, for example, to bind the parties to agree that they wouldn't move out of the coalition, what legal processes have to be followed?
Constitutionally, we have no legalities binding a coalition. They are a very loose formation.
So that's why it's very, very fluid and it can be problematic going forward.
Absolutely dynamic because, like I said earlier, if one partner is dissatisfied with what is going on, out they go. And that now creates uncertainty because no parliament, whether it's provincial legislature or national assembly, can exist on a hung parliament because you can't make decisions, and decisions can't be executed. Contracts can't be signed.
Now, wouldn't the parties consider this before they agreed on a GNU? For example, if you look at the parties that regularly cause disruptions in coalitions, the EFF and now maybe the MK, is the DA, IFP and the current ANC solid in keeping their side of the bargain in terms of running the government for a 5-year period to ensure that processes flow?
I would say that pact is just to ensure that we do not have a constitutional crisis. Because, look, they had 14 days in which to appoint the president and the speaker. If not, then Chief Justice Zondo will have to come into play. And we don't need that because we cannot prolong government. Government has to start working literally from day one from appointment. So the coalition you talk about is only solid on the paper it's written. And if that paper is worth anything, then I can say, yes, it's worth for the next 5 years. But my take is this. Once the marriage takes place, once the honeymoon is over, then like every marriage, trouble will start. Because I am convinced, take two issues, for example, just for argument's sake. Take the national health insurance. Take land expropriation without compensation. Just two instances. They're going to present problems because ideologically the Democratic Alliance is opposed to that. The ANC wants to push that. Obviously, land expropriation without compensation, to a degree, they want to palliate it with bringing in different differentials in how it's done, the methodology. But these are going to present problems. And because of the social injustices of the past that brought us to our democracy, which haven't been eradicated as yet, but the ANC has manifested itself into this corrupt party. What was once the ANC is no more. So this coalition we're talking about, will it be stable? I cannot say. We would hope that we have scholars and gentlemen in government, but in politics, 1 week might be a very long time in politics, and a lot can happen.
Now, obviously, those parties that join this Government of National Unity, unlike a coalition, which is a coalition in inverted commas, thought about all these differentials you're raising. And obviously, there were little or no options in terms of the different parties' percentage poll they achieved. None of them could, at a national level, achieve, control 50% plus one, unless there's a coalition.
Yeah.
This particular coalition or Government of National Unity will have a solid percentage behind it. So they had to go this route. Am I right?
Yes.
There was no other option unless they remain a minority, and that becomes a major problem if you don't have a Government of National Unity. And if you go it alone, then when it comes to appointment of MECs, the president, deputy president, speaker, you could have various problems.
No, I totally agree with that. But we must always bear in mind that this government that we're going to have for the seventh term in office is the first time we're going to have a minority government. It's not going to be a majority government, and that will in itself present problems. Because
but isn't that good for democracy now?
Look, in the classical sense of a government of national unity, yes. But do you exclude the smaller parties? The more parties you bring into this coalition or this government of national unity, the more problems you're going to create, because each one comes in with a claim.
The ANC invited all the parties, and these parties that didn't participate chose not to participate, so they cannot blame anybody else but themselves.
Yeah, perhaps they don't have a kingmaker position.
Well, a lot of them, their fundamental differences were with the DA to say that we don't have the same principles, etc. But the DA also can argue that they don't have the same principles as these parties, but they gave in and they agreed to disagree on certain things. It'll be interesting to note how those appointments are going to take place of the president. I think the president is a known fact that Ramaphosa may be the person that could create stability. So maybe everybody reached consensus that he would be supported as a president. But the deputy president and other office bearers and MECs will be a challenge who's going to be appointed.
Yeah. Look, I would agree that Cyril Ramaphosa is going to be continuing as president of South Africa. The deputy, the Speaker of the House, that I do not know. And it would have been very interesting to have been a fly on the wall with these negotiations. Because you must remember...
Because in these negotiations, those issues would have been discussed, isn't so?
Yes. From what I've gathered, the discussions today was, mainly on ideological aspects. They hadn't discussed too much on the cabinet positioning and stuff like that, which I doubt is true, because that's
obviously
critical.
If they accepted the GNU and it's already a done deal, obviously those positions, like for example, there's a hint that Shlabisa may get the premier. It's likely they may give him the premier and give Paul Mashatile the deputy president, and maybe the Speaker of the House could well be somebody from the DA.
Yeah, look, it's going to be shared portfolios. Only to guarantee some kind of stability. And politically, look, if I may just digress quickly, India is going to go into a coalition government. Look at how the world has changed, from what was...
Hasn't Modi resigned, or is this a rumor?
No. He's there, but the BJP and the Congress are now going to look at each other as friends to talk. Well, I say friends, but they'll need coalition to govern. South Africa is no different. And who would have thought 30 years into our democracy, we would be looking at a minority government, parties hurrying around to talk to people. The thing about the very small parties where you have 1, 2, 3 seats, they're not, unlike at one stage, the EFF became a kingmaker in certain provincial legislatures and stuff. This time you've got the bigger parties controlling the values, as you mentioned, to bring it to 50+1. But as I was mentioning, a government of national unity might soon become a contradiction in terms, if you know what I mean. I'm worried that at some point there'll be a government of disunity, where the infighting will start. I can assure you the DA might compromise on certain aspects of positions, but if ideologically they compromise on their principles, then they are not worth the paper they're written on. And so it did be for all the other parties. So at this point, everyone is treading very carefully just to ensure that we get over this line to bring about this new government. Horse trading might be happening beforehand, but it might happen that certain of the people that they appoint into certain positions might not be fit for purpose candidates. It's only because to ensure that the house is stable that they put them into positions, and they might not be capable people.
Well, listen, I heard Shlabisha talking today on TV, and he gave his reasons for being part of JNU. And he said, we want a stable government, we want a non-corrupt government, we want a government that delivers for the people, for the benefit of the people. So some of the ideological reasons he's given for joining the GNU is he says they committed to good governance. So, obviously they all have that in mind, given the history of South Africa in the last 30 years and the failure of most municipalities. And it is no doubt evident that some of the DA-run municipalities were far better run than the ANC-run municipalities. So people are saying that, we have to learn from each other, but ultimately we got to benefit all our sort of communities out there, including those that pay rates and those that cannot afford to pay rates, and non-taxpayers and taxpayers, because the cry out there is not only from those that are paying for services, those that cannot afford to pay for services are also saying we don't have any services or limited services, plus our demand is human settlements or housing and other basic necessities, and we're not getting that. So if all of these people forming part of GNU are committed to improve the lives of the poor people and those that are paying the taxes and rates, then they're all on common ground.
No, I totally agree. Look, the IFP and the DA have a history of good governance wherever they governed, and you don't take that away. And one of the critical issues in this elections, which I must add, and I'd like to chastise a lot of people, not all, we had 27.7 million people registered to vote.
And only 16 million
just over
voted.
16 million voted.
So it's under 60%.
Just under, 58, 59%. Now that tells us a story. We wouldn't be having this discussion today had the people committed to their civic duty and voted. It might not have gone the way we wanted it perhaps, but at the end of the day, why register to vote when you don't vote? Because that, as they say, is the voice that takes you away. Mm-hmm. But coming back to the issue of the IFP, DA in coalition with the ANC, look, service delivery was a critical issue, I'm sure, in their discussions, because one of the problems facing all South Africans in every province is the lack of service delivery, the lack of wherewithal, the infrastructure that is, degenerating at a rate of knots, and more importantly, the cadre deployment that the ANC embarked on. They've put unfit for purpose people into positions of seniority, of authority. And these people have, paid short shrift to provide service delivery, adequate service delivery to the people. And that is why the number of protests that we have all over the country, the burning of tires, blocking of roads and stuff, of course, more predominantly from the non-tax paying sector. But look, as Athol Fugard would say, people are living there. So we've got to provide.
Okay. On that note, we'll take a short break. We'll go through some of the messages that have come through, and we'll then wrap up.
The Watch Doctor. For watch repairs, watch batteries, watch straps, 21st keys, engraving, and sound for your occasion. Handled professionally at 263 Sparks Road, Mohammedia Center, Suite 104, Overport, next to the Sparks Road Masjid. Contact Zain on 082 542 3070. The Watch Doctor. The Watch Doctor. Keeping time every time.
Al-Ansar Shops trading hours are Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sundays and public holidays, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Al-Ansar Shop, your one-stop Islamic shop.
There's nothing quite like the taste of a traditional family meal, and at the heart of every great dish is a key ingredient that brings it all together. That ingredient is Sunfoil pure sunflower cooking oil, made from only the finest sunflower seeds. It's a perfect way to enhance the taste of your family's favorite foods. Sunfoil cooking oil is more than just oil. It's the key to bring your family together over a delicious meal and making every bite taste better. Remember, the key ingredient to a great family meal is sunfoil. Tradition just tastes better.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport.
Kenfield Auto.
Car won't start?
Kenfield Auto.
Noisy brakes?
Kenfield Auto.
Due for a service?
Kenfield Auto.
Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto. Advertising pays. Get your business on the map through advertising with Radio Al Ansar, the station with a proven record. Let's check with Simplex Radio to find out the impact on their business by advertising with Radio Al Ansar.
For us, it works very well. Our sales have increased and more people know about our store. I would definitely recommend advertising on Radio Al Ansar anytime.
There you have it. Join the airwaves and take it up to another level. Call us on 031 208 1601 and ask for Fatima Shahina or Faraz Bucks, our consultants. Let your name be heard by thousands of people. Radio Al Ansar, your partner in business.
Hadith a day. Zayd bin Arqam radiyallahu anhu narrates that the companions asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Messenger of Allah, what is this udhiyah? What is this qurbani? He replied, it is the sunnah of your father Ibrahim alayhi salam. And they asked again, what benefit do we get from it? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a reward for every hair of the sacrificed animal. And they asked, O Messenger of Allah, what if the animal has wool? The Messenger of Allah said, a reward for every fiber of wool on the body of the animal.
In order to streamline our operations and ensure your donations reach those in need swiftly and efficiently, the Al Ansar Relief and Welfare has updated banking details for the Lillah and Sadaqah contributions. Bank FNB, account name Outreach Al Ansar, account type check account, account number 63100203081, branch Florida Road. Your generosity fuels our mission to uplift communities, provide essential aid, and offer hope to those facing adversity. With these new banking details, your donations will continue to make a profound impact on the lives of countless individuals in need. Jazakallah for your continued support, and together we can create positive change and spread compassion far and wide.
Sunnah a day. If food falls onto the floor, it should be picked up, cleaned and eaten. It should not be left for shaitan.
The Al Ansar Bookshop Lifestyle Center will help you design your wardrobe with its latest range of fashionable Islamic wear and burqas.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك मुझको भी बुला ले तू हज पे मैं आस लगाए बैठा हूँ मुझको भी बुला ले तू हज पे मैं आस लगाए बैठा हूँ आँखों में बसा कर काबे को मैं ख्वाब सजाए बैठा हूँ जाने न कोई क्या दिल में है बस तू ही मेरा वाकिफ अल्लाह बरसों की तड़प है ए मौला एक बार बुला ले या अल्लाह एक बार बुला ले या अल्लाह एक नजर करम की साथ पर बरसों को भुलाए बैठा हूँ मौला मौला
شرف حضوری میری بھی میرا بھی ادا ہو طواف حرم مدت سے ہوں پیاسا اے مولا مجھ کو بھی میسر ہو زمزم مجھ کو بھی میسر ہو زمزم ایک شوق زیارت اس دل میں ہر بار جگائے بیٹھا ہوں مجھ کو بھی بلا لے تو حج پہ میں آس لگائے بیٹھا ہوں آنکھوں میں بسا کر کعبے کو میں خواب سجائے بیٹھا ہوں کچھ رنگ و نسل میں فرق نہیں بس لپٹے ہوئے ایک چادر میں شاہوں کو فقیری سکھلائے ہر شخص بھکاری اس گھر میں ہر شخص بھکاری اس گھر میں کیا خوب نظارہ ہے واللہ آنکھوں میں سمائے بیٹھا ہوں لبیک اللہم لبیک لبیک اللہم لبیک لبیک اللہم لبیک لبیک اللہم لبیک رم جھم کی برستی بارش ہو اور سامنے ہو وہ کعبہ تیرا ہونٹوں پہ ہو جاری مدح تیری کچھ ہوش نہ ہو مجھ کو بھی میرا کچھ ہوش نہ ہو مجھ کو بھی میرا منظور دعا ہو طیب کی ہاتھوں کو اٹھائے بیٹھا ہوں مولا مولا مولا
We'd love to meet you. Pay us a visit. Radio Al Ansar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the final session of News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming worldwide on www.alansar.org.za. Today is the 5th of Zilhajj 1445. Before the break, we were chatting with Mr. Naren Ganesh, and we were chatting about the Government of National Unity and compared it with the pre-1994 situation. And we discussed various scenarios. But interesting is that the president to be elected on Friday, Chief Justice Zordo confirms it will be the first time an ANC presidential candidate will not be guaranteed victory, as the party does not have the outright majority to successfully elect a president on its own. We were confident in our speculation that President Ramaphosa will probably be elected as a president through the horse trading. So basically, this follows the announcement by Chief Justice Raymond Zondo that the first sitting of the National Assembly, also known as the opening of Parliament, will be held this Friday, the ICC in Cape Town. The Constitution provides that after an election of the first sitting of the Assembly must take place at a time and on a date determined by Chief Justice, but not more than 14 days after the election results have been declared. So he's within that period. The Constitution, the results were announced on June 2nd and July 14 falls within the prescribed period. During the first sitting of Parliament, the Chief Justice will administer the prescribed oath of affirmation, as the case may be, to members of the National Assembly. This is an oath of affirmation of faithfulness to the Republic and obedience to the Constitution, which Section 48 of the Constitution requires MPs to take before they may perform their duties. Now, after the MPs have been sworn in, and after the prescribed affirmation has been administered, the Chief Justice will preside over the election of the Speaker of the National Assembly. Once he's appointed and elected, then he or she will preside over the election of the President and the Deputy. The Chief Justice will then take over again and preside over the election of the President. So obviously there's interesting times ahead of us. And as mentioned, it will be the first time the ANC presidential candidate will not be guaranteed victory. The party, as we discussed earlier, secured 159 seats. So through the Government of National Unity, they're saying that the candidate likely to be the incumbent President Cyril Ramaphosa will need the backing of MPs from other parties to be re-elected. Voting for Speaker, Deputy Speaker and President is done through a secret ballot. So I'm sure that will be live on the media platforms. And it'll be interesting to see who's the Deputy President, who's the Speaker. And thereafter, I think the President, once elected, will appoint the MECs in the different and the chairman of the various portfolio committees. So there will be horse trading. And as we discussed before the break, Narayan, that it'll be interesting to see how the discussions take place subsequently. But I'm just going to go through a couple of messages that have come through. And one important message that's come through from Frank in Pietermaritzburg. He says, salams to all. I'm sure many of us will be disappointed with the ruling party of which I supported since 1999 for the premature decision to go into bed with the DA, and I don't need to explain further on the question of Ya Palestine. While the ANC took a brave step forward to the ICJ on the Israeli genocide in Gaza, I think the rationale going into a coalition with the DA should have been discussed with the rank and file membership of the ANC prior to jumping into the deep end. Now, obviously, that statement is coming through from lots of quarters from the different political groups, particularly linked to the Palestinian issue. But I'm sure that the leaders would have given it good consideration before the NEC finally decided on this matter. Your comments in that regard, Naren?
Yeah, look, obviously the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has divided many a country on its own, with the pro-Palestinian, pro-Israeli issue. But unfortunately, I think in the interest of South Africa, those discussions had to be eliminated from the discourse. Only so because we are desperately seeking stability. Now, not for a moment am I saying we should not condemn or praise one or the other side. That should not be the case. I mean, we still have an opinion about the world issues. But in the interest of South Africa and South Africans, it was, I think, a necessary evil, if I can describe it that way, that the ANC and DA had to go into some kind of pact. But as I said in the beginning of our conversation, how long that pact lasts will be, not to sound negative, I don't want to sound negative. I wish, as you put it, that it could be solid for 5 years. But then it's a good alarm bell that has been sounded for our democracy, that we cannot have an authoritarian, autocratic kind of a government. And the more people, and that is one of the reasons why more and more political parties had come on board. Because now it's not dividing the vote or whatever. It's putting interest groups, constituencies into operation so that everyone can have a voice through various parties. And if we have a government of national unity, including these little parties, then it validates the necessity to have small parties coming into the fore. But like the listener might be aggrieved. I mean, I supported the ANC from my school days. I got into university, supported it. But there was a time in 1999, the very time Frank actually started supporting the ANC, I resigned my membership from the ANC because I could see the decline happening. But be that as it may, I think we all should be glad that and pray that subsequent to tomorrow or to Friday, and we also have on Saturday the National Council of Provinces that has to be set up as well, that we do not have any kind of upheaval in this country. The very fact that MK is not going to Parliament to be part of it is a worrisome factor, because there's been some kind of agitation that they might want to cause some trouble.
Well, the reason is that they still have on the table disagreement on the IC's, handling of the objections. And I believe they took the matter to court, but were not successful before Friday.
Yeah. See, and that's one of the issues that I was going to bring up as well. One of the things that we need to understand in this government of national unity is that South Africa is a constitutional democracy where the rule of law prevails. And it's not because you don't like the decision that you should oppose it. But, our judiciary have come under scrutiny quite a bit recently, more so because of political situation. And Jacob Zuma has been if I can describe it this way, a villain of the peace in many respects, in that he's had his court cases postponed, the Stalingrad tactics that he had employed. But the truth is, if a court of law, and our highest court has ruled, we should respect that ruling, because how much do we object if we don't like the ruling? A prisoner, a murderer who's found guilty is not going to be happy with the verdict and sentence. So we need to understand that there are processes and procedures that needs to be followed, but we cannot stall the country from moving forward. We can take them up in different... It's not going to change the course of history. What has happened on the 29th of May will remain forever. So Jacob Zuma has got no chance of changing the course of history now.
Okay, Naren, we want to conclude now. We just got a few minutes left, and maybe another 5 or 10 minutes we can wrap up. What crossed my mind is the reaction previously of the EFF. They always walked out of SONA and various other parliamentary sessions. EFF going to attend, but they're not part of the Government of National Unity, and they're bound to create some kind of a noise. And I'm so sure security will be on high alert. The fact that MK decided not to attend, obviously they may put up a legal challenge on, how could the parliament go ahead without them? But I'm sure it wouldn't be a strong argument. How do you see that situation panning out?
No, look, that's not going to happen, because for the election of the president and the speaker, you need 134 sitting members.
So they should be...
So there'll be enough. Between the ANC's got 159 already.
And with these GNU partners?
With the others, like I said earlier, you need 200 for legislative decisions. But for ordinary decisions and elections, you need 134.
So if they decide to stand down, it's not going to make any impact?
No, it's not going to make any impact.
And the reaction of them when they do come into parliament?
Well, if they have the interest...
They probably will kick up noises in parliament, and obviously security will have to take care of that.
Yeah, because in the interest of the country, if they know what's good for them, for the country and the stability of the country, they should not put political agendas and personal agendas ahead of the country and its people. And, like Julius Malema once called Jacob Zuma a constitutional delinquent, we might be having a repetition of that, of the very delinquents that were called that, because...
Must remember now the two of them are together. Won't they together create problems going forward?
Well, birds of a feather, as they put it, and that might be a problem. They'll cause disruption, but I would hope that we take stricter measures within the precincts of parliament, because that's an august house where legislation is made, where the country's governance happens. And to have these people, just because they... Look, we must remember something, and this is critical. The members of parliament are not elected members. They are there by proxy. You elect a party, they select a candidate. And that is one of the things
so
I will be fighting.
The party is responsible.
Yes. One of the things I'll be fighting for in future is that if we are going to put people up for elections, the public must know who we are putting up. I mean, without being facetious about this, if one of the parties had a monkey as a candidate, and you didn't know that, and most of the electorate don't know who the exact candidates on the lists are, as much as it's put in the government gazette, they will vote the party. And I didn't mean, I meant that metaphorically, only to illustrate that we've got to change the system of elections as well.
Because you may have incapable people being, put into parliament by the party.
Yeah. Look, in my candid opinion, there's a lot of parliamentarians who are not fit to be there. They do not have the capacity, the competence.
The same as officials in government and...
across the bureaucracy.
Yes.
Yeah. And we need to change that. If we want this country to function as a well-oiled machine, we need to remove the deadwood. And there are many, many people who are considered
Probably
to be
this might be a process of getting rid of the deadwood, because obviously before appointing anybody into ministerial positions, and indeed the deputy president and speaker, there will be a lot of thought from the parties, because they're going to have to vote by secret ballot. And it'll be interesting to see whether those people in the GNU are going to vote en bloc for what they selected, and the numbers will tie up, or some people may change their stance.
Yeah, I would have preferred it to be an open vote rather than a secret ballot, because I'd like to see who's got the proverbial testicular fortitude, I call it, to stand up and say what they believe.
Now, on Friday, obviously, with the MK not being present, all the other members will vote.
Yes.
For the president.
Yes.
So MK will say, we didn't vote the president in. Isn't that a tactical move?
That will be a sour grape.
No, a tactical move on their part. They'll say, we didn't support Cyril Ramaphosa. we suspect he's going to be voted, but we were not party to voting him in because we were absent.
I don't think that could be a valid reason, because when legislation is made and they're allowed to vote, if those who didn't vote for a particular legislation cannot complain because it's a democracy.
Well, probably that would be the excuse that we didn't vote this president in.
Well, I wouldn't put it past them, because they are agitating for disruptions and uncertainty, which is a sad indictment on Jacob Zuma. As a former president of this country, he swore an allegiance to, for the security and safety of the country. And using political motivations and political revenge to come back into politics is probably one of the saddest parts of his legacy. And I hope the people will see it.
Well, probably he chose this route because he wanted to vindicate himself from those criminal charges against him, and thought it'll be a bargaining tool to remove Ramaphosa, because he may have thought he was responsible for his criminal charges. But be that as it may, I just want to conclude and wrap up on the KZN scenario. I know local government is our favorite subject. On another occasion, we'll chat about the implications of this particular coalition or government of national unity on local government, particularly the municipalities that are battling.
Right.
Now, in KZN, it was announced earlier that the mayor of eThekwini will be transferred to NCOP, National Council of Provinces. On Friday will be his last day, which is the day when the president will be sworn in, and he probably will be seconded there. They will have to replace and put an acting mayor, and the deputy mayor here, or the person who's a deputy, is from the NFP. So obviously, to that person to act may be a problem. So they'll have to appoint an acting mayor. The president wants to strengthen the eThekwini. Now, the fact that 35 seats of the 85 have been won by MK, and if they do a coalition with EFF, who have another 3, it's about 39 or 38, which constitute 5 less than the majority because of that coalition. How would the MK react in KZN? Would they start becoming disruptive? And as Prof said, you may have some kind of a problem cropping up. Or are they mature enough to say that, we have been defeated by the so-called coalition and we'll have to bite the bullet? Because they were quite confident that they will run KZN.
I would hope not. We've had 2021 to remind us of how sad a state the province
became. How many billions of rands were lost? Yes.
Over 20 billion in eThekwini. Yes, the MK was buoyed as the results were coming up. They thought, wow, now we're going to take over the province. But thank God it hasn't happened. And I say that guardedly, in the sense that we needed this kind of a situation where no one party will control the province as well. And hopefully the maturity in the senior leadership of the MK. But you see, this senior leadership is, as I might describe, the old farts. They back into leadership. And what they will do is, if they don't get their way, it's like a child throwing his toys out of the cot. We want this and we didn't get that. And it is as much as a victory as much as it is a defeat for them, because victory in the sense they did okay, defeat
they
in the
did
sense,
very well.
Yeah, well, very well. But I must stress what I said in the beginning. They're not a new party. They are an offshoot of the
They're a breakaway.
ANC.
So basically, it's an ANC in inverted commas.
So it's ANC 3.
Correct.
Let's put it that way. It's ANC 3 MK, because those were the ANC people who supported them. But I hope, from what you just explained and asked, that we will spare the province of KwaZulu-Natal any kind of bloodshed or disharmony or disruption, because our economy is on the tatters. We need to revive our economy. We need to get people back to work. We need to get our infrastructure, our service delivery going. And all this will be sidetracking and detracting from the real purpose of governance.
Thank you very much, Naren. We'll have to watch the space on Friday. We will have to watch the political reaction and the economic reaction of the markets to see how they react to this particular GNU and coalition. We'll also have to keep in mind the reaction of MK and EFF, both in National Parliament and in KZN, the impact in local government. Interesting discussions ahead. I want to bring in Ahmed Marji. He chose to stay in the studio and enjoy the discussion. Ahmed, your concluding comments on what you've heard. I think firstly we should be so. I was just having a discussion during the break with Naren. We should be so appreciative that, in spite of all the turmoil, it proves the point that South Africa's democracy is so vibrant and it actually works. Right? Through all. I mean, when you think about the intricacies of how these coalitions are going to work and pan out. Okay, we're going to have some disruptions. Everywhere in the world is disruptions. America had the invasion of the whole Senate and all those things. So, yes, it will happen, but inshallah and alhamdulillah, we'll get through it. From a business perspective, business has to come to the party and support all these initiatives around it, more so with the turmoil and the coalitions and all the collaborations that I touched on earlier. So yes, business has to come to it and lift the country together with government initiatives and government on the side. Yeah.
Shukran, well said, Ahmad. On that note, it brings us to the end of News in Focus for this evening. A very important discussion we had. I want to thank our political analyst, party head for Nixa, Naren Ganesh, for joining us. Naren, thanks very much. You came late at night. I know you come from the Inanda area and you've got to be careful driving back home. You had some nasty incidents going back. Ahmed, thanks for joining us from Albaraka Bank. I'm sure, we'll have more discussions of this nature. I must thank our technician, Mondley, for performing a sterling job. On a closing note, we, as Muslims, Naren, in the very holy month of our Hajj period, which is a pilgrimage to Makkah, and from an Islamic perspective, it is a period in which our prayers are accepted, and we call it du'as. And our Muslims will be making a lot of prayers and for the prosperity of the country, because we all believe that Almighty is in control. No matter what human beings say, everybody's going to close their eyes one day and leave the world. And we will pray in this holy month of Hajj. They call it Zil Hajj, that the Almighty blesses our country with peace, prosperity, and give the leaders guidance towards the righteous path for the benefit of the people, because we have handed over this trust to the political parties, who handed over the trust to the politicians that have been appointed. And we make du'as and we pray that the Almighty gives them the ability to control this country in the interests of the people of the country, deal with service deliverables for the benefit of the people, have a good governance, a corrupt-free society, no maladministration. And this could be the year of change, 2024. We also make du'as that the Almighty gives the strength to these leaders to work in unity and keep up to their promises. And those that fell short, they must be guided towards supporting the initiative and ensuring it improves service delivery. And we should continuously remember, the country in our prayers, but also remember those that are facing atrocities in Palestine, other parts of the world. So, there's no room for, a world full of trouble, war, etc., because we haven't been created for that purpose. And on a closing note to our listeners, make a lot of ibadat in this Mubarak month of Ramadan. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for support and assistance to improve our lives, to become more deendari, to give dawat, to perform our 5-time salah with Jamaat, women folk at home, to make tilawatul Quran, to make zikrullah. No better time than this Mubarak month of Zil Hajj. And we make du'as for our pilgrims out, our Hajjis out in Makkah and Medina, that they have a successful Hajj in the weekend. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all towards the righteous path. On that note, we bring closure to tonight's program. We'll be back next week, Wednesday. Lots of discussions to take place on the impact of KZN, the impact on local government countrywide, and the performance of the politicians going forward. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.